ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਹਰਜਾਬ ਤੇ ਹਰੇਕ ਮੰਡੇ 7 ਵਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਆਪਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੀਆਂ, ਸਾਡੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਦੀਆਂ, ਸਾਡੇ ਬਾਹਰ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ NRIਆਂ ਦੀਆਂ, ਸਾਡੇ ਦੇਸ਼ ਦੀਆਂ ਤੇ ਜੋ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ ਦੇ ਇਸ਼ੂ ਹੈਗੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਅਫੈਕਟ ਕਰਦੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ। So let's talk with Harjab.
Saran Sat Sri Akal, welcome, good evening. Hope now we've got some sound. As you know, Friday, 7 p.m, I'm here to give you immigration advice and answer your questions. However, we won't be taking any questions till 7:40. The first part of the show till 7:20 I'm going to do in English because a lot of non-Punjabi speaking people watch the show. A lot of Europeans watch the show, you know, a lot of people from Canada, Australia, all across the European mainland. They watch the show from Africa, India, and therefore a lot of them can't speak Punjabi, understand what I'm saying. From 7:20, I will speak Punjabi and I will translate literally what I've said in the first segment. Now, I came back from Canada on Wednesday and I was keeping abreast of the news. And there was a bit of a bombshell, which is sort of put the cat amongst the pigeons. And that's what Priti Patel, the Home Secretary, is alleged to have said and is alleged to be planning that on the 31st of October, in the event of a no deal. So that's the Brexit date. Remember, Brexit date is 31st of October. And if there's a no deal, which it looks like increasingly that there is going to be no deal, this week, I think Angela Merkel has said, look, to Boris Johnson, I'll give you 30 days to find a new deal. And he's taken up the challenge. But if there's a no deal, then Priti Patel has allegedly said that we are going to end free movement of European nationals on that day. So freedom of movement is what it is. It's the law that allows European citizens to move to other parts of Europe and stay there and work without really meeting any point system, without meeting any criteria other than the fact that they're European citizen and they're going to come here to work. Or it's for people from Europe coming to the UK and vice versa, from people from the UK going to France, Spain, Belgium, Italy, etc. Now, what happens on the 31st if there's a no deal and freedom of movement is ended? Well, then what will happen is literally that any new person coming from Europe will be either asked to apply for a visa or will be asked to apply for leave to enter on arrival. So what's the difference between a visa and leave to enter on arrival? A visa is something that has to be applied beforehand, just like, say, perhaps we do when we go to, I don't know, some countries which, say India. Say when a British person goes to India, he has to apply for a visa. So that's something done at an embassy, done online beforehand. What's leave to enter? Leave to enter is where someone turns up at the airport with their passport and they're given entry on arrival. Like previously, or we still do, when British citizens used to go to Canada and America. And now the system's a little bit different because you have to fill out an online ESTA or get an online ETA, which is valid for 5 years. But after you've got that, you can pretty much go to Canada, America, and on arrival, they'll stamp your visa. They'll ask you a few questions. That's leave to enter on arrival. So what that does mean is that people from the EU coming who want to come to work here, they won't be allowed to come and work here and do as they've done over, say, the past 20 odd years. They won't be allowed to do that. They'll have to fit into the new immigration criteria, which Boris Johnson will bring in at that time. Now, in order to deal with, perhaps, obviously, it's going to cause chaos. This might cause chaos at the airport. You're going to say, well, what about people already in the UK who've gone on holiday and coming back? Will they be stopped? They might well be. They might well be. So this will cause chaos, and as a result, Priti Patel has sent all her advisors, a lot of her Home Office advisors, to Singapore to check out their system and to see how it works, and in order to try and replicate that by the 31st of October. Now, obviously, this has brought a lot of opposition. A lot of MPs have said, well, hold on, this is ludicrous. Say if a nurse has gone on holiday on the 20th of October and she tries to come back on the 5th of, say, November, is she going to get stopped and stopped coming in? Now, the people already here what the advice is for yourself is to get yourself into this EU settlement scheme that's online. So get yourself on there and make the application. It's an online application. You usually get a result within 7 days, and that will give you your right to stay here. So there's two forms of settlement. It's called pre-settlement and full settled status. Both are part of the settlement scheme. Pre-settlement is for people who have been here less than 5 years or have been exercising their EU treaty rights for less than 5 years. Full settlement is for those who've been here more than 5 years and have exercised treaty rights. So a lot of people have said, well, what's exercising treaty rights? The right to work, or you're permanently incapacitated, or you're self-sufficient, or you're a student. So that's really important. What I cannot stress enough that how important it is that every European citizen, regardless of how many years you've been here. So basically, every European citizen who does not have a British passport, every European citizen who has a residence permit, or called a residence card, or one of them blue ones, or usually a 5-year sticker stamp in their passport, every European citizen who has a permanent residence card. So even if you've got a BRP or a card or a sticker in your passport which says permanent residence in it, you still have to apply under the EU settlement scheme. That's a must. Don't think because I've got a permanent residence card, I don't have to apply. You still have to apply. So I get a lot of Polish people saying, well, I've been here 10 years, I've got a permanent residence card. But according to the scheme, you still have to apply under EU settled status. That's really important. Don't be in that mistake, or think that, oh, I've been here 10 years, they can't kick me out. You need to be apply under the settlement scheme. Although they've said you can apply up to 2020, with these new laws coming in 31st of October, it does mean that you might be denied re-entry. And you might be held up at the airport, you might not be allowed back. So you need to have applied under the settlement scheme. That is really important. That I cannot stress enough that you need to do. The only people who don't need to do it are those with a British passport or those with an indefinite leave to remain sticker. And that doesn't mean permanent residence. That's a different type of residency. So far, 1 million people have applied under the EU settlement scheme. There's an estimated 3 million EU nationals here. Let's not even go into their dependents and families. So out of 3 million, if only 1 million have applied, that means 2 million haven't applied. Probably 2 million plus. You really need to get your skates on and make an application. You can apply online. If you don't know how to do it, or you're not confident, then you can go and see someone like myself. It's what I've been doing for the last month, nearly every day. We pretty much do 2 or 3 families every day, because people are now beginning to wake up and realize, well, hold on, something's about to go down on the 31st of October. We don't have a deal, therefore we can be in problems. What does no deal mean? It means that there's no compromise between the EU and the UK, and that everything stops. Every form of agreement between them stops on that date, unless they reach some sort of compromise or agreement or a deal. This is what they've been trying to do in 2 years. Now we've literally got September, October to do it. August is almost over. So you've got to be confident that these two parties can reach a deal in 8 weeks. Now, if you look at what everyone's saying, Angela Merkel was very cleverly, we can say, very astutely, or maybe she just got fed up. They said, well, hold on, you're saying our deal's no good, you go and propose one to us. So Boris has said, all right, I'll bring one back in 4 weeks' time. Yeah? Now, President Macron of France is saying, well, hold on, we're not going to renegotiate the terms of the deal. We've already had a deal. You couldn't get it through Parliament. That's not our fault, but we had a deal. Now, why should we revisit? We can't give you more than what we've already given. So it does look like it's stalemate. And it does look like there's not going to be a deal. You have Boris Johnson insisting that no matter what, we will exit by the 31st of October, whether we have a deal or no deal. Hence, he's told Priti Patel, look, you need to prepare for a no deal. This weekend just gone, Mr. Barclay has signed a commencement order to say that EU laws will no longer operate in the UK after the 31st of October. So that's paved the way for freedom of movement to end, just by the signature of a commencement order. So the UK government are trying to get around that by not putting it through Parliament. And that's where the MPs are saying, well, hold on, you need to give us a vote on this. But every time something's put towards the MPs, nothing seems to get through. Everyone seems to have objections to it. So anything hardly gets through. And Boris Johnson has not got a very good majority. His government is propped up by the DUP, as we all know. So if they decide to, well, hold on, we're going to vote against Boris, then Boris is going to lose a vote. So what do we do if you're an EU national or you have a family member residence permit of an EU national, if you're a spouse of an EU national? Regardless of whether you've got a permanent residence card or not, regardless of whether you've got a residence card or not, you go and make an application under the EU settlement scheme. You need to do that. It is essential. I cannot stress that enough, that you need to do that. You need to make sure anyone, people watching the show, anyone you know who's a European citizen or is a family member of a European citizen, including the kids. So even the little European kids at school, they're going to have to do it as well. You need to get this done. This is a big, big, big thing. I don't think they're going to hit a deal by 31st of October. It looks very unlikely. Yeah, you've got 27, 28 countries got to reach an agreement, which they haven't been able to in 2 years. And on this side, you've got someone giving no extension to a date, no leeway. There's no plan in place. And you've got people insistent on, hold on, the first thing that we want to do is cut immigration down. That is worrying for European citizens. For British citizens, spouses of British citizens, you're fine. Irish citizens, spouses of Irish citizens, you're fine. So you don't have to panic. Irish citizens are protected by a 1940s agreement. British citizens obviously are British, and British relatives of British nationals, obviously you're covered by UK immigration rules. European citizens, if you haven't done your settlement scheme application, you really need to get this done. You really need to get this done. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter how many years you've been here. It doesn't matter whether you've got a permanent residence card or not, but you need to get this done. It doesn't matter what type of settlement you get, pre-settlement or the full status, as long as one of them, you get one of them, it's approved, you will be protected. Once it comes through, it usually comes through online, and you'll get a letter from the Home Office saying, right, your application has been approved, you can stay here. Every time you come in and out, you will have to take that letter with you. That letter has to be attached to your passport because you'll have to show it. It'll have your reference number. The Home Office will put that in and check it out. That's how it will work. Because any new people from Europe coming to try and live here are going to be subject to the new immigration laws. They won't be allowed to come here and settle here like before. They won't be allowed to come here and work freely wherever they want anymore. They'll be asked to fit into the rules, just like Americans are asked to do, Canadians are asked to do, Indians are asked to do, Africans are asked to do, Australians are asked to do. The rules will become unified for all of the world, except for Irish citizens, of course. They'll be allowed. I know you're going to say, well, it's unfair, but hey-ho, that's the way it is. The other way around it is, if you can apply for an Irish passport, brilliant. If you qualify for that, you're probably best passport in the world at the moment. Not only do you retain freedom of movement to live in the UK, but you can also have freedom of movement in the EU. So at the moment, the value of an Irish passport has shot straight up, and it's now going to be probably in one of the top 10 passports in the world. That's why there's been almost a 200% rise in applications for Irish passports. People are finding their roots, tracing their roots, and getting Irish passports. The Irish government are, under pressure. They've never had so many applications in their life. But clearly, Ireland are benefiting from where the UK, I won't even say lost, because we don't know if it's going to be a gain or loss yet. but from where the UK doesn't seem they want to benefit from. So that is important. Please, please get that into your heads. Don't be complacent. Don't think we'll leave it till we got to 2020, leave it. We just don't know what's going to... On the 31st of October, we have to, at this moment in time, treat it as if everything's going to come to a standstill and everything's going to stop for EU citizens' rights. That's the way we have to treat it. That's the way any rational lawyer will tell you how to treat it. And that's what you have to do. Because we've got no deal on the table, you've got no agreement, we've got no idea as to what's going to happen to EU citizens, we've got no idea what's going to happen to UK citizens in Europe. Absolutely none. No one's got any answers. There's nothing on the table. There's no agreement on the table. And this is going to make you think, well, what have they been doing for the last 3 odd years? Well, your guess is as good as mine. So, but there should have been an agreement in place. And 8 weeks till deadline day, there's nothing in place. So what the British government is going to do, they're going to treat it as if, you know what, after the 31st of October, we're going to stop the Europeans coming in and working here in low-skilled jobs or just like before. They'll have to fit the rules like the rest of the nation. Right, there you go. Lovely bit of news to cheer you up. I'm going to go to a break, and then I want to switch to Punjabi and explain all of that for the Punjabi viewers. And then after the next break, we'll take your calls.